So today we have a very special guest. Manny did $135,000 last month as of August 2024. Obviously, he was studying and learning a lot under Peak Flow, specifically Coach Trevor over here. So I'm going to pass on to Trevor right now. Trevor, what was your experience like with Manny? Kind of tell the audience, like, how'd you guys just went about like his particular e-com store?
Yeah. So I think we should start with like how we even met in the first place, which is pretty interesting. So I'll let Manny take it over from here. I think he has an interesting story of like how he kind of found out about like high tech ecom, and then how we essentially met on Twitter.
Yeah. So as far as me getting started in high ticket ecom, I always knew I wanted to run my own company. So every time, even when I was a kid, when people asked me, "What do you want to do when you're older?" I would always just say, run my own business. I don't know what I wanted to do. I just like the idea of running a business. My dad's a small business owner himself, so that's kind of where I got the idea that I wanted to do my own thing, have my own hours, and a lot more control over what I do. And I had recently graduated university and moved to London, and I was coming off of my first real job in the real world before I was doing this, and it wasn't that satisfying. So I decided I was going to move back to the US, and it was the perfect time to start a business. I asked my parents, I said, "Hey, I want to, try to do some kind of like online money making venture. Give me 6 to 12 months to figure something out. If it's not going well in any way, then I'll go get a real job." And I do have a little bit of background in making money online, I guess. I dabbled with a couple things. I've tried like Amazon FBA, affiliate marketing. So this isn't the first thing that I did. But how I came upon like high ticket dropshipping was actually kind of funny. I was just out on a walk, and I just went on the Apple podcast and I just typed in dropshipping. And the first thing that came up, yeah, actually, the first thing that came up was the Dropship Breakthrough podcast. So using that, I just figured out like what the business model was, and it made a lot more sense to me than like low ticket drop shipping. Because at the time, I was thinking of going into like TikTok shop. That was all the rage, and every video I saw, everybody was getting rich super quickly. It seemed. So that seemed like what I wanted to do. But I found this. It seemed much more stable, much more like an actual business. And at this point in my life, I wanted to do something that I could get skills, I can build equity in the business I'm building, and eventually, exit it or just use it to generate cash flow to potentially do other things in the future. Now, I know this is like a little bit long-winded, but working with Trevor, that was another step. So at the time Trevor and I met, to be completely honest, my business was in a pretty vulnerable spot. Up until then, I had operated every single month at a loss, and I was kind of feeling a little hopeless. I had all this information at my fingertips. So people would be posting, free courses, just a lot of free information out there that seemed pretty good, but it was kind of hard to wade through all that information and figure out what was actually going to move the needle, forward the most. So I just, again, I went online and just typed it on Twitter, like high ticket dropshipping. And then I just started following a bunch of accounts. Trevor had some posts that I would engage with that I really liked. Then he just hopped in my DMs one day and he was like, "Hey, like I see you must be like an high ticket ecom. How are you doing? What's the journey looking like?" And I told him the truth. I told him where I was at. Then I also told him my position at the moment. I didn't have like any money to be working with, a coach. So he actually just he jumped in my ads account for me and gave me like a free audit, and he gave me some advice over Loom of how I can restructure those campaigns. And every single thing he told me to do, I immediately reacted and did it right away. Then Trevor started seeing that, okay, I was pretty serious about succeeding in this space. I could take on information and act on it pretty quickly. So then he offered to work with me full time. And I mean, since we started working together, the results are night and day. Doing like the whole thing has been turned around, doing much better. So I just gotta say thank you in public to Trevor. Really appreciate you, man. You've done a lot for me, of course, but you already know that.
Yeah. Thank you for the kind words, first of all. I would say I kind of knew from the beginning that you were going to succeed, because once you work with enough people, you can kind of tell really quickly like who is going to put in the work versus who's going to, get the information, then like take 2 weeks to implement it. So I already knew from the beginning, like 6 months or however many months from now, I think we actually documented the whole journey, which is interesting. We started on March 28th. So it's like 4 or 5 months roughly. So we documented the whole journey, like all the changes we did with your store.
Yeah.
And it was pretty interesting. Like I knew like 4 to 6 months from now, we would be sitting here recording this video. So, once you work with clients that are like that, you could usually tell pretty quickly. But yeah, it's been a pleasure working with you because like basically like I explained something, you took action, then we moved on to the next step. It was just like the dream client essentially.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. So I guess my question is like, before we started working together, where you mentioned that you were operating at a loss, and I was pretty curious, like, how many months were you running the store for before we started?
Yeah, I think before we started, I was running the store for about 8 months, something around like 7, 8 months.
Mhm.
And during that time, I never got over like 10K a month in revenue. And I obviously didn't generate any profit the entire time. And I was kind of starting to become pretty like disillusioned with the whole process. I started questioning myself. I was like, can I actually do this? I have all this information. I'm seeing a lot of people successful, but is it me, or is this actually like a scam, and and everybody's like faking their success?
Yeah.
I think some of the challenges I was having, or some of the clear issues I was having, for one, this is my first time running any of this kind of business. So like doing the Google ads, doing all this sort of thing that I didn't know how to do before. And I mentioned Google ads specifically because this is an area where I really struggled. It wasn't so much about, I think it was really more about fear in a way where, so I would increase my ad spend. And then as soon as I started spending and I wasn't getting sales right away, I would kind of freak out and I'd be like, okay, like I'm just losing a ton of money right now. So I would go and decrease a bit right away and throttle it. So it was kind of like a little yo-yo. I wasn't getting any data back, and I wasn't acting on any data. I didn't have any clear
Mhm.
strategy of scaling. I was just kind of like tossing more money at the problem and hoping that would fix things. I also got a couple brands on that I thought were going to do really well because they're popular brands in the space. So I only had maybe 5 brands, and I just kept, more and more asking the same brands, and nothing was really changing. So that was like some of the issues that I was having. But after the free audit that Trevor gave me, he actually um, showed me how to set up my campaigns in a more specific way, where it was in a funnel system that I had to do. So I did that. And then the other big insight that he gave me was just add many more brands. You don't actually know what's going to succeed. You might have an idea of how a brand might do, but how brand's going to actually do is a complete different thing. So you have to just get the brands on, put the ads out there and test it out to see what's going to work and what's not going to work. So a lot of the issue that I had was even with my site design, I kept building my site thinking this is something that I'm going to like, but my customers are completely different than who I am. So just kind of figuring out to serve the customer instead of just like having my own ideas and going off of that was a huge insight that helped a long way for me.
Uh-huh. Got it. So I guess like in your words, and I'll go right after you. Like, what were the biggest bottlenecks? I know we worked on like getting more brands on, but there was
Yeah.
also a ton of work like kind of rebuilding the store, like the foundations, offers, which was later on. Like, I guess what in terms of like in your words did you think kind of moved the needle forward from like losing money to generating revenue? And for full transparency, everyone, like we're still working on Manny's store. Um, like we're not at the profit numbers that we want just yet, but that's a good problem to have because making sales is the bigger problem. Tweaking the profit, making more profit, I would say is the easier problem to fix.
Yeah, definitely was going to mention that although the revenue is exploding, the profit is lagging behind. But the difference now is that like, I have a clear plan, and now I know actually what to do in order to get that profit. So it's much more about execution than knowing what to do. And this was like the biggest bottleneck that I had that was encompassing overall, I think, is knowing what to work on, because everybody who's in this business will know that, or everybody who's in any business will know that there's an endless amount of things you can work on at any time. So knowing what you should be working on right now, this moment, that was very challenging for me. And there were a ton of things that I did that was more like just things for vanity, like going to Google Ads or going to Shopify analytics and just like staring at the data like for hours, or like playing around with the data. And I thought, I was fooling myself saying that this is doing the work, but that was a small fraction of doing the work. And I wasn't really doing the work. I was spending way too much time doing that. So some of the things that I thought that were the biggest levers we pulled were, first, like I mentioned before, just adding on more brands. The more brands you have out there, the higher chance of finding winning brands. The more surface area you have to get those sales. The second one I thought that was really important was creating some automation in the back end. So if you think of your like sales funnel like a leaky bucket, when I started with Trevor, leaky bucket would be nice because there was literally just like no bottom to my bucket at all. It was like a hose. So we did some things like setting up automation, some email flows, like a email pop-up campaign, email pop-up, automated like welcome series, abandoned cart and checkout cart, SMS and email flows. And each thing we did like that kind of started patching up some of the leaky bucket. So as I got more traffic, more and more sales were starting to convert. The next step was just improving the layout of the site and the navigation. I didn't really know my niche super well, so the way I had it laid out actually makes completely zero sense now that I look back at it, and I have a much better understanding what the niche is. But at the time, I kind of went with what I knew, so it was kind of just improving the knowledge and making the navigation easier to use for the customers, and then making a bunch of little tweaks to the site so it could improve the conversion rate for the site. And then the main other thing was restructuring the ads. So Trevor gave me like an over-the-shoulder guidance. Every single week we would meet and we kind of dive into the ads and see what we were doing. And he wouldn't just do it for me. He kind of would say, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. So I would have a better understanding of what we're actually doing. So I could, do it myself eventually much better than I am now. And then after we made all these changes, then finally the biggest lever to pull is just increase ad spend. So this was something that I just was not doing for a long time. And now my ad spend is probably triple, quadruple what it was back then. But I've been making a profit every single month since I think like our second month together or something like that. After we restructured it, we turned the ads up a lot and revenue's going up and profit is also going up significantly compared to what it was, but it's still lagging for where it should be. But every single thing Trevor told me is going to happen has happened along the way. So at this point, I'd be foolish not to believe him and to doubt him. So I'm excited to see where this is going to go, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you pretty much summarized it. Like, basically what we worked on was we kind of like took a funnel, people that are at the ads before they see the website. We just went the reverse. Like, we fixed the back end first, like the email. So every single dollar that we spend on ads, we're getting as much juice out of the ad spend. Then we fixed the website so people could actually go into our email marketing, because if our site is not trustworthy, they're not even going to put in their email for the pop-up. And therefore our email marketing is just worthless. So we basically did a lot of fixing in the back end to make sure, because your niche is also pretty competitive. So we fixed a lot of the back end, the website, the email marketing, SMS, redid the website. So a lot of different fixes before we did the ads. And I think a lot of people do all the way around, which, you just burn more money. Like, if you don't fix the holes, you're just going to leak more.
Yeah, and there were things about just like the process that had in place that changed as well. For example, like the sales process or order fulfillment process. I didn't actually have any sales process. I kind of just had somebody calls, I'll just hop on a call. And if I didn't close them on that sale, it was kind of just like, all right, well, call me back if you're ever interested again. But now we have like a full-fledged system to like reach out, to follow up on, because a lot of the sales, at least for my niche, it's almost half and half. Almost half of them are made over the phone. And most of the time, what I'm finding in this space is really not, you don't have to do a lot of selling. It's more just guiding and educating them, especially from my niche. It's a pretty technical niche. So people people call me and they're pretty motivated. They have like glaring problem or pain points that they want to solve, and our products do solve them. But it's much more about building that trust and letting them know that you are going to spend a lot of money, but we are actually going to fulfill your order and we are going to give you support along the way. So some of the processes I was following, well, I wasn't following any process. So I think it was kind of not changing process, but implementing some process. So I think those sort of changes have been the biggest, benefit to me. And now, I'm finding different, like at every level you have different challenges. And now my biggest challenge has been, I should probably hire someone probably like a month or two ago, but I've been procrastinating on this heavily. So obviously Trevor's been telling me that a lot of this also is mindset. Knowing what to do is half of the battle. Actually doing what you're supposed to do is the other half. And that's the part that I'm really trying to overcome right now. And I'm finding a lot of challenge in getting myself to take action. I have no problem with doing a lot of work, but sometimes when there's something that I know will push me forward the furthest, I have a really hard time just sitting down and doing that. And right now it's like creating the SOPs for hiring. So that I'm definitely working through that right now. So there's many challenges along the way, and there's gonna be challenges every single step.
That's great. You explained everything exactly like how I would. Speaking about like hiring, like up until this point, it's just been you running the whole business, which is
yeah
like not something I usually would recommend, but like you were able to manage to make it work. Like giving your schedule, like have you found it pretty tiring? Because when I was taking customer service calls, like some of them would come after like 10 p.m. where I usually sleep at like 9 p.m. So I would just wake up, take the calls. If I close them, if I didn't close them, so what? I would just go back to sleep. So like, how were you kind of doing it like currently
yeah
yourself?
I mean, I've definitely nuked any like personal social life that I have. I mean, this past year, I don't really see friends that often. I've been kind of grinding on this. So I'll take calls around the clock. There have been times where it'll be like 4 a.m. and then I'll just get like woken up from a call. But it's not so bad because at least compared to like my old job, I know everything I'm doing is to benefit me. And even if I'm not making profit up front, I know I'm like building equity with the business. And one major unique selling point that our store has compared to others, and this is probably across the board, if you're in high ticket, you want to make sure that your customer support is absolutely dialed in. My clients are often older. I would say like, I think I was just actually looking at the numbers yesterday. 75% of my clients are over 45, and they're mostly men as well. So they want to speak to a live person. So the feedback I always get is every time I call your store, I actually get to speak to a live person. And I mean, it's always me. Sometimes it's kind of funny actually. When they call in, they think we're running some like big operations, and I just act like I'm like customer support help. So I'm just like, they're like, "How long have you been around?" I'm like, "Yeah, we've been doing it for some time, you know." But I think customer service is the most important differentiator, and my clients, I know for a fact, really value that. They also value speaking, to someone who's in the U.S. So I don't know like how long I can keep that part up, but so far the customer service has been the most important thing to differentiate my business. I get people are actually on the phone telling me, "You know what, you might be a little bit more expensive, but I'm willing to go with you because every time I call you, you answer the phone, you give me your cell phone, you answer my texts, you answer my emails. So I know I'm in good hands with you." So I think customer service goes a long way in differentiating your business in this. I don't know how well. I think that's part of the reason why I've been reluctant to hire as well. I'm probably not really thinking about it the right way. I keep thinking like, oh well, no one could do as good a job as me, but the amount of time it's going to free up for me to do other things, even if somebody does like 70% the job that I can, it's kind of a no-brainer to actually outsource some of that help so I can actually start engaging with some of the strategies to grow the business again. Because obviously, over the past couple of months, my job is kind of starting to turn into like a 9 to 5, where I'm not really even working anything on the business, but I'm fulfilling orders and making sure that FedEx didn't lose the package, and someone's calling me asking me, hey, where's my tracking number, those sort of things. That's taking a lot of my time up. So I think, hiring is absolutely the next thing that I must do.
I agree. Yeah, that's stuff you gotta definitely hire someone before you take the business to the next level, which is definitely going to be more exciting. I guess to recap, like, what are your goals, like where you're currently at right now, for the next 6 months? Like, you obviously want to hire someone, but what were like the next revenue goals? Do you want to be like fully removed out of the business, or like, what's your goal with?
Yeah. So when I actually went into this niche, I did some research, or at least the best that I could. But I didn't know that my niche was going to be so competitive. It's one of the more competitive niches, maybe the most competitive niches in the space, at least from my understanding now. But what I'm also finding, like, one thing that I'm finding is I think you can pretty much succeed in any niche, like, once you know what to do. Because now that I'm starting to understand it better, like, what to do more, it's kind of just like a process you follow, and it's systematic. It's not really about I wouldn't think about, like, if I'm going to be successful. I'm going to think about, okay, when I'm going to be successful, like, as long as I stick in. So it's much more about sticking in the game, and showing up every single day than finding quick success. So, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. If you're in it for the long haul, like, you will find success. And if that specific store doesn't blow up, you have the skill set to start another store or to apply to many different avenues of business, especially making money online. This is absolutely the future. So the people that are getting in now, it seems people think it's saturated, but you're still early. Like, you're still very early. And what I found in my niche is that although it's super competitive, the market is growing rapidly. So, even though my slice of the pie might be small, the actual pie is getting much larger. So there is more room for all of us to eat. So when I first started, I thought I wanted to do something where I jumped in the business, spend 6 months, 12 months, completely hire people and get myself out of it, and I'm just checking my laptop from a beach every for like 15 minutes a day and doing that. But now, actually being in it, I'm enjoying it much more, and I think there's scope for the business to be much larger than I expected it to be. And there's some things that I could do to really get it there. So I think I'm just excited to actually just work on the business and be, like, I'm very involved for at least the next couple of years to see how big we can get it. But I do have aspirations of doing other business. Like, I don't think this is gonna be my last business anyways, no matter how successful this gets. I'm finding that I actually just enjoy doing this every single day, and I'm finding a lot more fulfillment in my life than just the money. Because now, like, I'm living in my parents' house. I'm still pretty broke, but I think I've had, like, the best year in the past year as far as, like, how I feel as a person. I'm feeling challenged. I feel like I'm making a ton of progress. So from a mental point of view, I'm just getting a lot of confidence and self-belief in myself that I can do much larger things in the future. And this is just like a foundation of starting that. So whatever success I find from this, monetarily, I'm going to use that to, do my next ventures. And if the monetary success does not come, I think I have many things I've gotten from this to kick on and just, crush whatever I do next. So I'm feeling pretty good as far as all that goes.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you. Like, even if you, for example, just fail this business, like, all the skills that you learn are indirectly transferable for any other business that you start. But like, people definitely have a misconception of, like, how big you can grow this business. Like, obviously you can grow as big as Wayfair, but, like, I don't feel like anyone that I know is going to work on this business for 30 years, because I think that's how long it's going to take for you to grow it that big, get people investing in your company and everything like that. But yeah, those are definitely great goals for sure.
I think so. To answer the next, like, 6 to 12 months, because I kind of did ramble, and that was the more
it's
like a longer time horizon. So next 6 to 12 months, definitely 6 months from now, why not, double the revenue to 500? Definitely want to get to, not 500, 250. Definitely want to get over 10K a month profit for sure. And I think that's very doable in the next 6 months. And then maybe have like one full-time person that's working with me, maybe 2, 6 months from now. So like someone to do back office stuff and someone to handle sales exclusively. And then start, doing things like SEO. For my niche, I want to start building out like an installer network, which I think could pull a huge lever for me. So just kind of getting started on some of that work.
That's good. Yeah, we'll definitely circle back in 6-12 months to see exactly, like you said, 250K.
10 likes if you want a second video, guys.
Make it happen. Cool. Yeah, I guess the last final question is like, for anyone that's out there that maybe were in your shoes just 4 to 5 months ago, what would you say to people like looking on the outside? Like, should they invest, like not even into just like a coaching program? Should they just invest in themselves to get to the next level? Because a lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines and they want to make the next, like actually take their business to the next level, but they're scared that like there's something stopping them. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, to those people, I would say that I think dropshipping is dead. So you should definitely not enter. Save your money. What I would say is, first piece of advice is, that whole like Chinese proverb saying the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. Like that's actually very true. So my biggest advice is to just get started. You're not gonna have everything figured out before you get started. So there's no point even trying to. Like the things that I know now, there was no way of knowing that without actually going through the process of doing the work. So if you want to learn more and figure stuff out, just get started and you'll figure it out on the way. Like once you start working and once you start building momentum, that's like a very powerful thing. And that can carry you a long way. So first advice is to just get started. The second one is, and this goes for anything you want to do, whether that's business or anything in your personal life. If you want to get really good at something, the biggest shortcut you can get is go find somebody who's really good at the thing you want to be good at and just learn from them. So that's why I think for me personally, like working with a coach this time has actually opened my mind to, okay, what else am I working on in my, in my life that I could potentially get a coach for who can actually expedite my learnings and the process that I'm on. I'm just thinking back before I met Trevor, and it was just like it's such a no-brainer. It's like one of the biggest. It's probably the single biggest thing that I've done for my business was directly working with someone. So don't be shy about making that investment. It might seem like a ton of money up front, but you're guaranteed to make that back. As long as you like, if you won't quit, the only thing that's going to stop you from succeeding is basically you quitting. So find a mentor, learn from them, and yeah, and the rest will be history. Like I guarantee it, honestly, I have no doubt.
Amazing. Yeah, like I agree with you. Like nowadays, like if I want to learn something, I'm always just looking for who's the best in the industry so I can learn directly from them, take the shortcut.
Yeah,
But
and then
like
there's
anywhere.
so much. Yeah, exactly. There's so much information online that you can follow, but that only gets you so far. There are many like nuances within doing the business that you can only actually get from speaking with someone, not just from watching a video, like having follow-up questions and really getting into it. And because every niche is different, although the general principles you're being taught apply to every niche, like how you apply them and how they work is going to differ depending on what niche you're in. So having that like hands-on person who actually not only like tells you, okay, this is what you should do in this situation, but also just brainstorms with you. So it's not like Trevor's telling me everything to do and I'm just blindly listening. Like I can give my feedback, and it's more like a partnership, and it's like you're working with someone instead of someone that dictating from the top saying you have to do this, and if you don't do it this way, it won't work. There are many different ways to get to the same goal. So it's more like collaborative approach, which is really what I like.
Right. Makes sense. So yeah, that wraps up. Marcus, did you have any other comments, questions for Manny? Thank you for like just sharing your whole story. Like it was very inspiring. Like I had very similar like upbringing as you. Like I started so many businesses, and what got me to next level is I invested in a mentorship as well years ago. So similar story to you. But Marcus, did you have any other final comments before we wrap it up?
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to say as like this was going on, I felt like we all had one thing in common, and it's like we just keep on going. And I think that's very important to let someone know, especially when they're first a beginner trying to get into the online business. I want to let you guys know that the results that Manny has gotten so far, everything that he's done, you know, it's his result of consistent grind every day, brick by brick. I think a lot of people coming in look into online businesses trying to get rich just like that. But what they also don't see is like there's proper planning to it. Like you want to get to a certain level, but there's also steps and guidances, which having a mentor, especially someone as like veteran and experienced as Trevor, could really kind of just tell you, oh, maybe don't go here, like just go here. It might be a little like the better route. And having mentor guidance, that's something, you know, really amazing. So thank you so much, Manny. If you guys found value, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys all in the next one.
Sounds good, guys.